Welcome to Leadership from the Trenches with Mike Berry and Nicole Swan.
Welcome, everybody, to our podcast, Leadership from the Trenches. I'm Mike Berry from Red Rock Research. I'm a technical trainer and a consultant. And with me is my partner, Nicole Swan. Nicole, I'll let you introduce yourself and introduce our interviewee today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm Niki Swan, and I am a senior consultant with PeridotCircle Consulting. Excited about this podcast and working with Mike. I've admired him for a long time and what he does. And someone else that I've admired for a long time and what he does is Ted Arnoldus. So I'll give you just a quick update on who he is and what we have in store for us. So Ted is a multi-unit franchisee with Unishippers. He and his wife, Eliza, have been franchise owners since 2009. Together, they have won 15 awards for growth and have won Franchise of the Year twice. Ted's sales team regularly wins President's Club. They have 3 kids. Ted is into endurance sports and hiking. Ted's passion is mentoring and coaching. And just a quick note, Unishippers is a shipping and logistics company. They're targeted to the SMB, which is small and medium-sized business, if you didn't know, like me. So Ted, we're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. So Ted, tell us a little bit about how you got into Unishippers and what inspired you to get into the company that you're in.
Sure. I always liked selling. I always liked the idea of owning something, but the problem is I'm not an engineer. I'm not a software guy. I didn't really have any kind of widget to sell. So I needed something to sell. And I like Unishippers because it was the opportunity for me to sell selling, basically. And so my background has been in logistics. I sold for Airborne Express and for DHL as sales manager for them. And Unishippers was one of our resellers. And so I took a turn at medical device sales for a little while, and lived in that world for a bit, and wanted to come back to shipping, something I knew I could be successful in, and something where there was a path to equity for me, and that's something I always wanted to go do. So in 2004, I was hired as the sales manager for our biggest franchise at the time, which was based out of Southern California. And so I ran all of Southern California and Las Vegas for them, and had, I think, 24 sales reps under me at one point. I thought I'd just bought a fairly good living and income stream. Turns out I had to work for free for about 6 months, just trying to rebuild that thing from scratch.
That's the life of an entrepreneur. Yeah,
it is. So for anyone who's curious, the old mantra that it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much as you think, that helped in my case. Yeah. And I was eventually able to pull things together and made a couple of key decisions along the way that really made an impact on what the future company would look like, the sustainability of growth over time.
Right.
And I've made a fair amount of mistakes too. So I'm hoping if anyone listens to this, save them some pain. That's how I ended up at Unishippers. So
this podcast is about leadership. So we want to kind of get into some of your insights in leadership. And how would you define leadership?
I really like what Dave Ramsey says. He calls it servant leadership. So I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. There's a book that I definitely recommend called Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey. He talks about, not just sitting in positional power, but finding a way to influence people from whatever seat you happen to be in. That person is a leader. If they can move the team forward for good, if they can rally people, they can bring people to the cause. Another book that really made a big difference for me was talking about how team captains, it's called The Captain Class. I don't recall who wrote it, but this person went and did a study on who the dominant sports teams were over the last 100 years. And in every case, it was a highly impactful team captain. And it's funny because this is the team that the Pele was on. It turns out the team captain was able to really help Pele reach his heights by creating a structure that he could thrive within. So it wasn't even that person was the most talented person on the team, but it was this person had high impact, high expectations, high execution, and they were able to lead and bring that organization to where they wanted it to go. And it's really interesting the impact that's had. So 2 very strong books on leadership. I recommend both of those very highly.
I have a kind of a follow-up question to that, and it's something that you mentioned just when we were talking a little bit before this, that part of being an extraordinary leader, and that's been your track record, is hiring and developing your people. So part of that servant leadership that you're talking about. Do you want to talk about your experience and how that's your philosophy and approach has developed over time?
Absolutely. So I came into this with a little bit of hubris, thinking I'm really good at sales. I'm really good at selling shipping, and I'm good at hiring people. So what else is there to learn? And the day I had my own company is when I really had to learn and to do as much as you can with limited resources. And I came to an understanding that sales isn't just putting pieces on the chessboard, or management and leadership isn't just putting pieces on the chessboard, but it is seeing the people behind it and giving them a space to thrive within your organization. Another quote that I really, really like is that you can get everything in the world that you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And so that was my big pivot to answer the question, Nicole, is realizing that if I help enough people win President's Club, I'm going to win the sales manager award because I have a high performing team. If I empower these people and I have a sales manager that's also winning these awards, then I'm going to have a really high flying franchise and be able to do it. And I'm developing a bench for future growth. And so I was looking beyond what this person can give me in the next 18 months and saying, is this someone I can partner with? Is this someone that I want in my ecosystem for a long time in life? And, that was the big pivot for me.
Wow.
Hey, Lee just put a quote in here that is awesome, and I think it represents some of your approach, Ted. It's, you can have everything in life you want if you will just help other people get what they want. Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, that was the one. So I appreciate that. It was distracting because whenever I see something, he'd research it and put it up, and I thought, oh, that's awesome. So I appreciate you doing the hard work for me. I tend to spout things, but now we can validate them in real time.
So Ted, what would you say some of the techniques and insights you've learned and developed along the way for encouraging people to give their best?
It's funny. We need to provide fertile ground for the people that are in our ecosystem. So whether or not it's a direct report, whether or not I have direct positional authority over someone, so they're a someone who's under my line of authority in the hierarchy of the company, what we need to do is create an environment where people know you, people trust you, there's rapport there, and because that is the baseline and there's this mutual trust in what we're both bringing to the table, then we can go and push ahead. I don't know, this is kind of a goofy analogy, and I apologize if it doesn't fit exactly, but if you ever watch a fire team, like a platoon that goes out into hostile territory, they're not looking at each other. They all have an assignment. They all trust each other implicitly. Everyone's going to go and do their job. And the person next to you has your back because that's their job, and you're looking out for each other. And I feel like especially in a small company, that's what leadership feels like, is just creating this fire team where everyone can cover what their area of responsibility is. And then we can just move forward and go and achieve the goal because we're on a unified front.
I love that. You got a quote on here now.
I love it. Okay. That's my own. I think I can attribute that to myself. That's good.
That's great.
But I don't want to jump. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, Niki.
I've heard you talk a lot, Ted, about vulnerability or things that you have done that has been out of your comfort zone or what you thought your role would be, or things like that, in order to move your business forward and do the right thing. Sure. And I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I certainly didn't give you this question beforehand, but it's been something I've been really impressed with you about. Do you want to talk about that and how that fits into successful leadership?
I would love to. I think most leaders, specifically business owners, you're deathly afraid of walking in the room and everyone realizing the emperor has no clothes. You want to put up this facade that you can come work for me. I'm the stable one. I've got all the answers. I have all the money in the world. Everything's working perfectly. And I was put in situations where, the downside of Unishippers is I have to pay my carriers. I pay them by contract. It's a scheduled ACH. That money goes. And 99.99% of the time, I had the money to cover it, but I didn't always. And so we're coming into that Friday, and I owe UPS $200,000, and I've got 150 in the bank. That's a hard place to be. That's a very vulnerable place to be. And so what I always did before was, we're fine, and I'll just try and work something out behind the scenes with the bank, or, I didn't want to tell everyone what was going on. And eventually my hand just got forced. And I had to be able to tell them, hey, I need your help. This is all hands on deck. We need to collect $50,000 in the next 6 hours. And everyone, it was amazing. In fact, sorry. It's amazing to see everyone rally, because I always felt like I was here to provide for everyone. The 16 families that work for my company, I'm the benevolent benefactor, who helps everyone. And it turns out I needed help that day. And I've never seen people move so hard or so fast. And we hit that goal, no problem. And it was amazing. I mean, people were driving to Logan and St. George and picking up checks and taking payment over the phone. People whose role wasn't even collections. It was, sales or customer service or whatever else. The entire company just stopped and rallied behind one unified thing. And it made all the difference in the world. And I realized in that day that a facade's a facade, and most people recognize it that way. They think, Ted's the owner, he sits in the office, he doesn't do anything, and here I am making everything work. When if I just come out and I'm honest with them about where we're at and what we need, I made that change immediately. We have a weekly meeting where I show everyone the bank balance. I show everyone what our receivables look like. I'm totally honest with them on what our strategic plans are and how I see that updating. We had a situation where I just had an exit in one of our franchises. And part of that exit was I had to move my customer service team from being employed by me over to being employed by our franchisor. And that was to facilitate the movement of the accounts later. And that's just moving from one hand to another, and it'd be seamless. But that was a lot of stress for me because these people had gone to war for me and I didn't want to hand them over. And the day I figured out that was a possibility, I sat everyone in the company down. I was completely honest with them about the future direction of the company. And I was terrified because, what I was telling them in essence was, You have a job up till this date, and after that, I can't guarantee it. And I thought everyone would just leave. And, I did everything I could on the other end for them to make sure, like, hey, there's not going to be any changes, and they're going to get all the benefits they were getting before, and this team stays intact for so many months. But like they don't know that. And even if they hear that from me, they that relationship, that trust has to be there. And it went through without a hitch. We didn't lose anyone. And they all went on to become high impact people in my corporate office now. So I've got 2 of them that are in franchise onboarding now. I've got another one that's a VP in the admin and back end office side. And I've got people everywhere that I know and trust that are making a big impact in our corporate side that came from me. So it really wasn't even just my customers got taken care of on the other side, but now we have much more influence than we ever would have had in making that move. But that must have been so scary for them to hear the owner of the company say, hey, around this date, and I'm not sure when that date is, you'll no longer be employees with me. You're going to have to move over to these guys. Yeah. And most of the franchises in my system that were in a similar situation didn't tell their people, and it was chaos when it was announced. So there was an important lesson for me in that.
Yeah. Ted, people say the first role in leadership is that your team, your direct reports are your first customers. And it sounds like you've really demonstrated that well. I want to kind of ask you, have you ever had any challenging employees or somebody that was part of your team, wherever they may have come from, and sure, there was some tension or something that you had to deal with?
Yes. You have people, you have challenging situations. There's a hard reality that the part of me that wants to give everyone a chance, wants to keep everyone on payroll, wants to mentor everyone through whatever their struggle might be. But there is a hard reality. Not everyone is good at every job. And sometimes being someone who really is legitimately looking out for his employees means that you have to make changes. I've had to move people out of leadership positions that they weren't suited to. And that's really hard. I run a sales organization. We turn people. I've had some tough stories. We had one very recently that was difficult. And there are certain things that just means you can't have a home here anymore. But there are certain things where it's, let me work with you. And the way I navigate that is we have 4 core values at Ashby Logistics, the company that I own. Number 1 is integrity. If someone is willing to work with integrity, I can coach them out of poor performance if the integrity piece is there. Number 2 is communication. We have to be not just good at communicating, but over communicating, making it so painfully obvious what's expected between the customer service, and sales that there's no room for disagreement. Number 3 is accountability. We will always make sure that we are keeping ourselves accountable to that which we promise that we'll do. And the final one is growth. And so we need to always have a growth mindset. We need to always be improving, and we need to always look. And so the only one strike you're out with me is integrity. If someone has poor integrity, there's just, no matter how much I love them, there's just not a spot for them in my organization. And we've had to make some tough calls around that. The other ones, I had a sales rep that was a great guy that was hitting a lot of doors, that was doing everything on paper that he was supposed to be doing, but he wasn't pulling through accounts. And it just turned out that he was too much into his own head. And so I have multiple layers between me and this person. I just said, let me ride with him. So I spent a whole day with him, and we were able to get it figured out. And he's #1 rep in the office right now. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Great.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no, go ahead, Niki.
Well, I was going to say, I think we're getting close to the end, sadly, but I wanted to give Ted just a chance if he had any parting thoughts that he wanted to share about insights about being a leader, some important advice to pass on.
I would say to other leaders that loyalty is earned. When you're loyal to your people, they'll be loyal to you. And that's just not positional. Don't assume just because you have manager or owner or president or next to your name that alone is going to buy people's loyalty. I think it buys a certain amount of respect, maybe from a fear standpoint, but that's pretty short-lived. And if you really pry people using that kind of positional power, it just builds resentment. What I've found that lasts and what works is get in from the front, lead from the front. Don't do anything you wouldn't ask your own, don't ask your people to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And just get your hands dirty and show people you care about them. And if you have a chance to make someone's day, do it. I've paid people's utility bills that have worked for me. I mean, it's such a small thing, but it makes such a big impact on your people's lives. And look at leadership as a stewardship. You've been given something to take care of. And if you treat your people with respect, they will treat you with respect, and you will not believe the walls that they'll run through just to help you. And that's my parting thought.
Wow. Thanks so much, Ted. It's been an honor to spend a few minutes with you. Really appreciate your wisdom, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Niki, I think that's a wrap.
I think so. Thanks, everybody.